Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition, or Thursday edition, of the GPG podcast. I guess I will be the captain of this weird and merry ship this evening. I don't know where I'm going with that analogy. Apology, guys. Joining me this evening, we have regular panelists. Puxley, how are you doing, my friend?
Good evening. I'm doing very well, thank you. So it's been a couple of weeks, but I'm glad and happy to be back. And a good amount of news has come out since, Gamescom-wise, and a few other little tidbits that I know we're going to be diving into. So I'm doing very well, thanks. So yeah, I'm looking forward to tonight's show.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, mate. And also another regular panelist on the show, and the gentleman who hosted the last episode. We've got Luke Steele. How are you doing, mate?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Yeah, it's been a good week for news. I think there's been a lot of stuff actually. Some today or yesterday, so which we'll touch on. So yeah, all good, and looking forward to talking about it.
Lovely. And if I could just clarify something from Ash in the chat, do you have pants on?
I do. Yeah, yes, I do. I'm not
disappointing news,
but I do have pants on. You can trust that.
Ash, there you go, mate. I'm sorry for destroying any dreams you might have this evening, mate, but Luke's pants are firmly on for now. We'll see where the conversation goes.
Yeah,
you got to pay for the premium subscription.
Yeah, for that one. And you get an under-desk view.
Oh, it's off the rails already. So, and joining us this evening, actually the second time in just a matter of days that myself, Luke's, and our special guests are going to be chatting, we have Stubz Gaming. Stubz, thank you very much for joining us. How are you doing, mate?
Hello, thank you for inviting me on the show. It's my first official invite on the show. I once was previously on when the show was live and I just joined a long time ago. But yeah, thanks for inviting me on. Yeah, you were on Roundtable Gaming on Sunday where it all went off the rails, but it was all good fun.
It was a lot of fun, Stubz. Appreciate the invite. I know we've got BMG in the chat.
Just so everyone knows, okay? Oh. BMG didn't realise that Lord of the Rings had movies. There you go.
Yeah, that was kind of the big revelation during Roundtable Gaming. We do have BMG in the chat. We've got a few other guys in the chat, so I'll just give them a little bit of a shout out. We got Ash, as I mentioned earlier, Game Talk in there, Meisuko, Pixel Slapper, Tugungulu. Thank you all very much for joining. BMG is not happy that you're sharing his dirty secrets. Stubz by the looks of things.
Birds of a feather, LOL.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about Lord of the Rings and Birds of the Feather in the same show. That tells you what kind of show it was, considering it was a gaming podcast, allegedly.
Exactly.
But it was an awful lot of fun. So I appreciate the invite again there, mate. So I guess unless you've been living under the very same rock that BMG was living under during the early 2000s, you probably haven't missed the big news that came out. I think it was overnight. It came out either very late last night or very early this morning that Sony have decided to increase the price of the PlayStation 5 in a couple of key territories. So let me just switch over. I am going to try and do something here to get the blog up so we can kind of go through it together. But I thought it's kind of the hot topic of the day. So we kind of have got to touch on it realistically there. So yeah, I mean, it's not too much of a surprise, I don't think, and that companies are increasing their prices, but I still think this has been a little bit of a shock. I don't think people expected this maybe this soon. So Luke, I'm going to start with yourself, mate. I'm going to ask you to kick us off here. I'm sure you're kind of up to speed. I've got the blog up here so people can see kind of the new prices, and I'm sure we'll go into it in a little bit of detail. But do you want to maybe take us through what they've announced and maybe what your thoughts are?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, from a UK perspective, it's effectively a £30 increase across both versions of the console. And I think worldwide, apart from the US, the price increase is between, I think, like 10 and 20%, as much as 20% in some places. Could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. They announced they were increasing it due to a couple of things. One was inflation, I think they mentioned, and then just the economic, there you go, the economic environment, and various other bits. I mean, I think there's kind of two ways you can look at this, because I think anybody can sit here and say, that maybe from a purely corporate perspective, from looking at PlayStation, if you were in PlayStation looking outwards and you looked at the economic climate, inflation, manufacturing costs, etc., and you wanted to keep your profitability of your consoles the same, then you could easily inwardly justify that. But we're not, nobody that I know, certainly none of us on the panel, are PlayStation execs or shareholders or anything like that. And so I think from our perspective, I don't know really how you can defend it, as an individual, just a gamer, right? As a person who participates in the hobby. I can understand it. I know, it's not dissimilar to prices increasing across the board in other things, but that doesn't mean I have to like it or defend it, almost, So it doesn't impact me, but it will impact other people, and for some people it may take, what was something that was affordable, if you get your hands on one, right, into a realm of not affordable, and that's just shit, really, isn't it? Like, that's just crap. I mean, my overall impression is just negative. I didn't like it. It's always quite hard to justify any kind of price increases around these products, because typically, like, Sony are making probably profit, at least on the disc version. They might be making a small loss on the discless version. I think I saw one analyst confirm that or talk about that. But when you have the company as a whole doing just exceptionally well, making billions of dollars of profit every year, to then get hit with a paragraph or two about economic circumstances, etc., it's a bit like, kind of boo-hoo for the corporation. Yeah. It's hard to feel really sorry for any corporation that passes on a price increase to consumers that is at the same time making extraordinary profits and being very successful. That's very difficult. You see that in the UK in particular at the moment with energy companies and that sort of thing. So similar principle here, albeit, of course, it's not necessary to have a PlayStation. So yeah, I guess I just you can't really defend it. You can analyze it and say, you might see why they've done it solely from their perspective, but that's just like a viewpoint that is hard to justify from a consumer level, because as a consumer, like, why would you want to pay more? You don't, So it's disappointing. Fair play to Microsoft, because I think they came out earlier and said that basically they're not looking to increase prices at this time, which is great, and I suspected that they probably would. I mean, certainly from a corporate perspective, Microsoft are more easily able to absorb of economic environment, inflationary pressures than Sony. Not that Sony can't do that; they could very easily do that, but it's to an even higher degree from Microsoft's perspective. So, and I think that's cool. They could have, quite easily piggybacked off of this, I think, to say we're also increasing our prices, but they didn't. And I think that's really cool. And I'm sure, I don't know to what degree or anything like that. And I think it was interesting that Sony came out or forecasted that they didn't expect basically no impact in terms of sales from the changes, because at the minute they can't even meet demand anyway. So, clearly it's not going to, Sony would have analysed this and, had a look at, will this have a negative impact on the amount of PlayStation 5s we can sell? And they don't think it will, which I found was really interesting. But it may move some people over to Xbox to some extent. If PlayStation 5's now out of your reach, you might look and see, Series X or S is cheaper in some respect, so I'll just go with that instead. So really interesting, not particularly great, but I'd be interested to see what other people think about it as well.
Yeah, the point that you make about Sony obviously making a significant amount of profit, I think, is something that Stubz touched on a little bit in the green room. Actually, we were chatting about it, and Stubz, I know you mentioned that Microsoft are probably in a better position to be able to absorb these sorts of costs, exactly as Luke said there. But what we've got here is a giant corporation who are making a significant amount of money and a significant amount of profit, passing on those costs to consumers. So what's your take on the situation, Stubz?
Well, obviously, from a consumer perspective, the increase is quite high. For a lot of people that were thinking, "Oh, I'll get one." Just say it's an extra 30 quid. Did you say, Luke? Extra 30 quid. Yeah.
So actually, I've got this article from The Verge. So Tom Warren. So I'll try to bring this up here. That kind of shows the before and after prices. So it's gone from, in the UK at least, it's gone from $450 to $480 for the console with the drive, and then the digital edition's gone from from $360 to $390, which so it's a 30 quid increase on both models in the UK. But if you look at something like Japan, it's gone from 50,000 yen to 60,000 yen. So that's if my maths isn't failing me, that's a 20% increase in Japan, one of their home territory, I guess you could say. So,
So obviously, from a consumer's perspective, it's not good to put your console up, and obviously, Microsoft's not going to come out and say, "Yeah, we're going to put the price up," because now their console looks even more attractive to people. And as Luke said, people could potentially think, because either the Series S or Xbox Series X is sometimes easier, I'm not saying all the time easy to get hold of, they could potentially buy an Xbox. But from a business perspective, obviously, yes, Sony do make a lot of money, but they're nowhere near on Microsoft's level at all. Yes, they do make money, but it seems in 2022 that it's on the media. I know it's bad about energy companies in the UK, but it does seem to be that making a profit seems to be turned into some kind of crime. It does in 2022. Obviously, don't agree with energy companies, but yeah, it probably would have been better if they just kept the price the same. Maybe it's see. Obviously, Microsoft as a whole makes a lot of money in every area. See, Sony, the biggest bread earner, whatever the saying is PlayStation. So they may worry that if they don't really want to make a loss, to be honest. Maybe it's got something to do with some of these games going into PlayStation Plus. They have fears about it. I don't know, really. But from a consumer's perspective, yeah, I did want to buy. Now, actually, funny enough, I didn't know about this story till you put it in here. But Luke did message me earlier saying, "Get your PlayStation 5 order in before it goes up." LOL. And I thought he was messing about. Then I was sitting in the green room just before we weren't talking, and I could see you flicking about the pedal. That's what he was talking about then. Because he messaged me, because everyone knows I want a PS5, but I just can't afford one. But yeah, putting up an extra for me to say to my missus, for Christmas, I want a PS5. It's gone up. It's $480 now. It's gone up 30 quid. So We'll have to see if I get one this year. It might have to be next year. But yeah, it's me as a gamer. Going up 30 quid is quite a lot of money. So I'd say from a gamer perspective, it's bad. But behind the scenes, you don't really know what's going on. That's the problem. Like Luke was saying, we're not executives. We've not got the finances out, etc. But from a gamer's perspective and consumer, to put it up 30 quid, it's not a good look. Of course, Microsoft's going to say, no, we're going to keep it. And as I say in PMG, if they wanted to properly do something, Microsoft should just come out like PMG said and just do a little price drop.
Yeah. Well, hold that thought, Stubz. We're going to come on to that because I've got a question for you all when it comes to Microsoft's stance on it. But it's interesting that you say, you're someone who's after a PS5. You haven't got one yet, and this might impact your ability to afford one later in the year when you're planning on picking one up. So, Pux, you don't have a PS5 yet, I don't believe.
I don't.
Do you?
No, I still use my trusty PS4. It's still doing me well at the moment.
How does this news sit for yourself then, mate? Is it going to mean the PS4 sticking around a little longer?
Ultimately, yes, actually. I mean, I've got to pick my words carefully here because ultimately I don't think this is right and shouldn't be happening at all. But I have looked at this with the lens of comparing it against all other products, especially in the gaming space, which seem to have increased in price as well. Mainly the Quest 2, which has got increased by a whopping £100, if you all remember that. And as much as I think this is bad, I did, at least on the UK prices, I know it's not good across the board, but when I saw it, I say only 30 quid. I don't mean it is only 30 quid because any increase is bad, but I thought it was better than what could have been compared to seeing what's happening in different markets within the gaming space. But it is just that little bit more. I think as Stubz just mentioned a minute ago, that ultimately, yes, it does kind of make me reconsider as to when I will purchase a PS5 for myself. I wasn't necessarily going to do it this year anyway. It's probably going to be sometime next year. But when that is now, I'm not so sure because of this. But what I found interesting as well is more, I think, as Luke touched on, the reasonings behind this and that, the global pandemic has caused all sorts of supply chain issues, which I know it has. And from the industry I work in, we've been just as exposed to all of the different issues, and lead times for components are into the years now, not just months. That's how kind of dire it is. So no doubt consumer electronics such as gaming consoles also going to be hit by it. But equally, alongside component shortages and stuff like that for electronics and whatever else, all sorts of prices are going up in all manner of locations, like export and shipping costs and things like that to transport from different factories to different parts of the world. All of these different supply chain issues are all no cheaper than they were before, and if anything, they're only going up. So I don't go on.
Just jump in now. I've got a friend who works in haulage, and he said, the containers, the ship, each container, the prices are ridiculous. It's like a bidding war.
As in, like shipping containers,
Yeah, shipping containers from like UK to America to China. And he used to be like 10 grand. He said to me, there's something like 20 to 30,000. The shipping costs have gone through the roof. They're fighting. It's like a bidding war. Name your price. That's what they're doing. He said there's not enough containers in the world. There ain't at the minute. He says it's a big. Obviously, everyone's profiting from it, but it's not a good thing, and that also drives the costs up.
Yeah. And that kind of justifies my point, but I just don't know whether or not does adding a bit more to the final price of the product really is. I just don't think it's going to even out enough, because I think most, in generations gone by, hardware typically made a loss when all of your profits came from software sales. That's always the way, and always has been the way. Although I do believe this gen, I don't know about on Xbox side, but we have to take this with a pinch of salt, I know. But since this news came out, I have read a number of articles, all kind of stating from various sources of unverified status that actually Sony apparently make a small profit on their systems. I think, Luke, you mentioned that a minute ago as well, at least maybe on the disc version. So the fact that they're not taking a loss anyway and then felt the need to increase it regardless, I just feels like a bit of a slap in the face, and does make you wonder why has the Americas not gone? I mean, I know Mexico and stuff was on here, but typical North America, your biggest market, when a lot of your shipments probably go to, and probably the location which arguably spends the most as well. Why has that not increased? I found that bizarre.
I can tell you why.
Yeah, I think it's fairly obvious, but go on, Stubz.
They want to dominate America, basically. Take it off Xbox. That's the reason. They dominate Europe still to this day, and now the main market they're after is America. That's why they've not put the price up.
Where do PlayStation have the biggest competition? It's in the States.
Yeah, but then arguably to make yourself more desirable, you then lower the cost. Surely.
Yeah,
but keeping the cost the same in that region, why would that change anyone's mind if it's going up elsewhere?
Oh,
but if you're a consumer in the States, you're not getting a price increase. So they're not more expensive than the competition in the States, where they face the most competition from Microsoft, because the US is obviously Xbox's biggest market. So if they were to increase the price in the States, then they would now be priced higher than their competition in the region where they face the most competition, while in these other markets, with the exception of Japan, where they'll obviously very handily get beat by Nintendo on the Switch, they are already the leader. So there's less, I guess, pressure on them from that perspective. Look, were you gonna say something on that point there, Matt?
Yeah, I think that's one consideration. I think that's probably the obvious one. But the second one, and the reason I think they refrained somewhat against changing the US pricing is because the US dollar is very strong as against yen at the moment. So sales in America being in dollars means more yen ultimately. So they probably looked at global currencies like the pound, which is very weak against the dollar at the moment. Euro is very weak against the dollar. And just said, right, we have very strong competition in the US console market with Xbox. That's Xbox's best market. Europe is dominated by PlayStation, so it's safer, if you will. Same with Asia, safer. And also you don't need to do it necessarily in the US because the dollar is so strong at the moment. So you're gonna get a lot of upward value by selling in dollars and then converting to yen. So those are probably the main two ones. So I don't think just as simple as that's where the competition is the strongest, but that's definitely would have been a pivotal factor, I think, when Sony were looking at should we also increase in the US or not.
Yeah, they don't. I just had a quick scan through the article there. I don't think they specify, why they didn't. I mean, why would they specify why they're not doing something in a particular market? But they do specifically highlight that there will be no price increase in the United States compared to they obviously highlight the US as its own market. They don't mention any other market where the price isn't being increased.
And they also say in the second sentence, global inflation rates as well as adverse currency trends, which is an indication of one of the reasons they did it in Europe and the UK, where the currency is just appalling as against.
I've just looked.
Dollar.
That's really bad. It's not been like that for a long time. The pound against the dollars, it's £1, $1.18.
18. Yeah.
That's terrible. It's not.
Not to get it too much into kind of economics and stuff, but didn't the pound dip beneath €1 or $1 recently for the first time ever? It was one of the two. I think it was only a small.
I think it was euro.
Euro, yeah. I think it didn't. Yeah, I don't know what it is at the moment, but that was obviously pretty big for that. Obviously, I'm no economics expert by any stretch, but yeah, I think that's a fair point to raise. And Nintendo decrease or increase the price of the Switch? And they decreased the price of the Switch in certain markets due to the strength of the euro not too long ago, didn't they?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah,
Plus, I
think
guess
that was an
Nintendo can.
increase.
They did also come out and say that they are expecting dips in profits though, because they're not going to be able to make as much supply throughout the rest of this year and into next year. I think
we've also got to remember that the Switch is 5 years old and hasn't had a single price drop in that time as well. So
that's true.
yeah, it's normally in most console generations, there would have been maybe some sort of price drop or revision or some variety by this point. But I think this is the first instance of a console manufacturer increasing the price of the hardware. I'm not aware of that happened at any point in the past, unless anyone can correct me on that.
I don't think so. Yeah, I think it is the first.
I think it is. Yeah,
the first time that's happened.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, from my perspective, actually, question for you all, and Pux, I'll ask this of yourself first. So they've obviously increased the price. Do they lower the price again in the next 12 months? Does this price come back down once things improve? Or if I want to get a PS5 from any point now into the future, am I going to be paying more than Luke did at launch?
Yeah, this is actually one of the first things that did come to my mind when I read this. And as much as I'd love to believe that once the world becomes a bit more settled down and everything becomes more and more normal than how we knew it before, then sure, I'd love to believe that it would come down to be what its original retail price was. But the reality, I believe, is that people will get used to the price. It will then feel like this is the norm now. And because of that, it won't change. I don't feel that. I think it's going to stay at this price until something drastic happens, or for some reason they have a big change of heart, and as a massive goodwill gesture, they decide to lower it back to the original.
That sounds just like Jim Ryan, that, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I don't quite see it happening, but unfortunately, I do feel like this is going to become the norm, and then we'll just know no different in 12 months' time. I think that will be the reality, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, they don't mention it being temporary. I mean, why would they? Because that'll obviously just mean people would likely just hold off until it's reduced. Luke, Stubz, do you have any different thoughts from Pux there? Do you think this is just the normal price of the PS5 now?
Yeah, they're not going to change that. I mean, they will lower the price, in the future, because that's just what happens, as the generation goes on and manufacturing costs become lower, etc. It's ripe for a price reduction. So they will do that, but they're not going to reverse this cut. Yeah, this increase, and for that's why they've done it. Because it was temporary inflation, etc. If anything, I could see them doing something like doing a price cut back to the original price, in a year and a half from now, and going, we're happy to announce that the PlayStation 5 has received a price cut, and just gloss over it and try and kind of spin it that way.
I hope they're not daft enough to do that. I really hope they're not daft enough. Like, it's like you can just imagine now the original price of $480 crossed out with $450 next to it in sort of big letters and numbers.
I know.
Yeah.
So I think, I don't think it will go back down, at least not for a good while. And that's annoying. So I think, as Puck said as well, like, and I do agree with Puck, like, it's not, and I don't mean, I think it's always dangerous territory saying stuff like this, because I think, we're much more fortunate than other people would be in these positions, but an increase of £30 is not a gigantic increase in the UK, but it's certainly, you don't want any increase. That's the problem. Even if it was 10, you'd still be like, well, why? It's and you can always say, at least it's not X, but we can only really deal with what we've got. And 30 quid is, it's still extra money. You shouldn't want to pay that or have to pay it. Now, if you wanted to spend your money on PlayStation 5 and it's a fantastic console, then people should, but I think the problem is it'll just it will make it more difficult for people to get one, or some people, not everyone. But clearly it won't make much of a difference to Sony because they've said it won't. But
I mean, this is a console that was selling for upwards of £600 in the UK when it first launched.
Yeah.
It's obviously scalpers prices, not the RRP. But I think you're right. I understand when you guys are saying like it's dangerous to say like words like only. I'm sure people will understand that you don't mean it like that because it's obviously a less than 10% increase, but and one thing I wanted to raise, and Stubz, I'll ask you maybe to jump in on this, is Sony were obviously, I guess, one of the first companies, and certainly the first out the 3 platform holders to increase the prices of their games as well, which they come under a little bit of heat. I think it's kind of more or less accepted now. Obviously, more third-party publishers have adopted it. Microsoft are yet.
Did you just say Sony was the first? I don't think they were.
One of the first. They were the first of the 3 platform holders out of Sony, Nintendo, and Microsoft. Obviously, other third-party publishers have adopted that higher price point for games as well. So we're in a position now where Sony has more expensive hardware. They've got more expensive first-party games, but as Luke mentioned, they haven't revised their forecasts. They're still expecting to ship the same amount. So, I guess, Stubz, do you think this will have any impact whatsoever? Combining those 2 things together, do you think it'll make any difference to Sony's bottom line?
I don't really think it's going to make a difference. These consoles will still sell. I mean, you had Muppets out there spending £600 to £1,000 on a console for the PS5. I mean, although I said it may affect me, probably will end up getting the PS5 anyway. But it all depends. But yes, see the £70 thing. A lot of the big like Call of Duty, etc. They've all like 2K games and all that. They've all adopted it now. So because everyone went out, they when you say the market has spoken, it has. But even if Xbox was to change their price to 70, it'd make Game Pass even more valuable. I still say, I do say it's coming. All the games, I might be wrong, and people in chat will probably tell me I'm wrong, but even Xbox will put their games at 70 eventually, and it will just make Game Pass even more valuable.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, Stubz.
People do hate to hear it, but they probably will in the end.
Yeah, I think people hate to hear it because, as we talked about here, and as we talked about when any of the publishers increase the price of their games, is people don't want to pay more for the stuff that they were paying less for just 12 months ago. I agree that I think Xbox will do it. You know, shock horror, Scott and Stubz agree once again on something. We're going to have to start making this a habit, Stubz. But what'll be interesting, so a couple of things, is when they acquire Activision Blizzard, obviously Activision are one of the publishers that have increased their prices. Are they going to have Activision's games at a higher price than Xbox Game Studios games and Bethesda games? When they have games like Hellblade, Forza Motorsport, that come out, which are next-gen exclusive games? Because I think one of the issues maybe they've got at the moment is all their first-party games are being cross-generation. And they've obviously pushed smart delivery as being kind of one of the big selling points. So they can't have the old-gen and the next-gen version of a game at different prices like other publishers like EA have done, because the whole smart delivery program that they've offered. But when they move towards next-gen only titles, which I guess, to be fair, they've kind of done it once with Flight Sim so far. I guess that's maybe a bit of an exception. Is that the point when they start making that change?
I think they will keep Activision, like Call of Duty games will remain £70, because from what I understand, Activision Blizzard, so they claim, they're running it separately from Xbox. It's going to be it's supposedly an independent subsidiary of Microsoft. So I wouldn't think that they will change the prices over that side. They just keep them big games because it's a moneymaker. They've bought, they're trying to acquire, Activision Blizzard. It's a pure and simple, it's a moneymaker. It's a cash cow. Do you know what I mean? But you are right. So, because you know how you keep saying next gen? I call.
I mean, it's current. It is current gen. Yeah, I guess
because it confuses me because because I call it current gen, but some people call it next gen. They do.
Yeah, I think it's because we're still in that weird cross generation period
Yeah.
aren't we? Which, yeah, you're right. It is. It's the current gen. We should say current gen and past gen rather than current gen and
I understand
next
why
gen,
you
so.
say it though, especially on the podcast. I do.
Yeah, I shouldn't. I'd say exactly. It's funny you call out. I didn't even realize I was doing it, Stubz. But I feel exactly the same way when I hear people talk about next gen. I'm like, no, it's the current gen. Like
You've just done it.
that gen's gone. So yeah, I've done it myself. So Microsoft have responded to this. Not necessarily responded to this directly. They've not necessarily called out, but Windows Central did reach out to Microsoft for comment, and they did come out. And essentially, I've got the quote up on the screen, so check the article out over at Windows Central. But they do say essentially that they're going to be keeping the price of the Series S and the Series X as it is. So the next question for you all then is: you're Phil Spencer. Imagine you Phil Spencer for a moment, or maybe someone within the Xbox marketing team. Yeah, I can see Luke getting in the zone. I could see that. You've now got it. Imagine you've got a really good shelf behind you. Well, actually, you already have a really good shelf behind you. Yeah, and you look at this. What would you do? Have they done the right thing and just come out and say, look, no change for us. That's it. Or would you maybe, as BMG alluded to earlier in the chat, would you have gone a little harder? Would you have maybe done something a little bit more extravagant to really, I guess, drive home the value of maybe the Series S or Game Pass or something like that? So, look, how about yourself? Channeling your inner Phil Spencer.
Yeah, no, I don't. I mean, I don't think they need to do anything. I think, they. Look, like, value's all very subjective, so I don't want to do an analysis of Game Pass and owning an Xbox and all that sort of thing. But in any case, if you own an Xbox, it is both now cheaper to get into on a console level, and cheaper in terms of your games, because if you're subscribed to Game Pass, you're saving a massive amount of money over and above what's on PlayStation. I mean, certainly PlayStation's value proposition has got better in terms of the PS Plus revamp, etc. It's got some really good stuff in it, and you can save money there. You can't save money in the same way that you can Game Pass now. Especially when Microsoft start bringing out big first-party games, because that's where you save the most money, right? So I think if you're Microsoft, you don't need to lower the price of your consoles, because they're now already cheaper anyway. Both at least let's go with the UK again, both at the low end on the discless PS5 versus the Series S, and then on the high end, the Series X versus the PS5 disc version. I know the disc and discless versions of PS5 are no different, but still. So you've already got that. You've already got Game Pass, which is very cheap, and it's very cheap to get into. And on the Sony side, obviously, there is a premium to get in there, because now you've got to spend more money on your console. And also, if you want to buy a brand new first-party game, it's going to cost you £70, right? And whether you find the value in that is up to you. But you certainly can't deny that in terms of, pure amount of money you have to spend, you don't have to spend as much on an Xbox, at least not at the moment. So I don't think they need to do anything, and I don't think they need to cut their nose off to spite their face. They don't need to lower the price and make their revenue lower, because they don't have competition that's doing that. The competition is doing the opposite. They're trying to keep their revenue as it is or increase it via a price increase. So I think it's great for Microsoft, and I'm not surprised at all they made a statement about it, because they want to say to the world, hey, look, you can buy PlayStation 5, but we're not raising the price of our console. Also, Game Pass, £1 to
Yeah.
3 months, whatever. Like, just come over here, try this out. So I think it works for them, and I don't think they need to be particularly aggressive about it. They can just. It's much the same if you think about it, albeit on a slightly different level, as when the start of the Xbox generation with all the used game stuff, and Microsoft were talking about DRM and all the kind of limitations around that, and PlayStation did that really kind of piss take simple. This is how you share your games, right? And like Microsoft obviously haven't gone to that level here, but it's
should they? Would you like to see Aaron Greenberg?
No, I don't
there?
want to see Aaron Greenberg at the best of times, so I wouldn't like to see him in an advert. But they don't need to do that. I think, because it's not as a baneful move, I don't think, increasing a console by 30 quid as the whole DRM thing was back in the day, which was just really weird. But first of all, I don't think that kind of competition exists on the level anymore. The kind of petty back and forth that happened back then, not least, especially not with Phil Spencer in charge, and Jim Ryan doesn't see just seems very straight-faced business. He's not really into all that stuff. So I don't think they would need to go back and forth like that, and I certainly don't think Microsoft needs to do anything here. I just think they need to keep doing what they're doing, just keep advertising it, saying what a great value it is. Obviously it's a bit of a struggle for them at the moment in one sense, because they don't have tons of big stuff coming out this year. It's obviously been a poor year from a first party perspective, but that's still not really, their sales are still increasing, so there's still high demand for their consoles, and I think that's driven by Game Pass primarily, because people buy into the idea that, okay, right now this year I don't have a lot of great things coming on Xbox. I have some good stuff, but big first party bangers, I don't have them. But just look at the roadmap of developers. Look at what you're going to get in the future. It's just it's mental. It gets to the point where you just think half of the studios Microsoft have, and then you're like, oh, they've also got X and they're making Y, and you're like, wow, that's going to Game Pass. It's brilliant.
And that's before even obviously the Activision deal closes as well, where that only gets bigger. It does maybe present with an opportunity in the future though, Luke, where you mentioned earlier that Sony could at some point announce like a price cut down to the original price and frame it as, look, we've reduced the price of the PlayStation 5. There is maybe an opportunity at that point, whenever that might be, where if the market conditions have improved, where they could maybe turn around and say, okay, but now this is the opportunity to decrease the price on the Series S and the X. So when you come back down to their original level, maybe we'll drop it. And obviously by that point, their first party output should have significantly improved. You would like to think, at least, hopefully, it should kick off early next year with Forza and and Redfall and Starfield. So at that point, Game Pass even becomes even better value. So, Pux, have you had time to channel your inner Phil?
Kind of, but if I'm perfectly honest, I basically reflect what Luke was saying. I don't think changing the price here on Xbox side would be beneficial to them at all, really, because I think they would just be putting themselves into the same boat. Again, as Luke was saying, yes, PlayStation Plus has had its big revamp, and it's definitely added more value to itself, I believe. I've definitely been enjoying it as a PS4 user, going back to back catalogue titles I hadn't touched on, or I didn't have the time to play on, which has been great. But ultimately, when the time comes when I hopefully do upgrade to a PS5 at some point, there are a good number of first-party games, unless something significantly changes and a load of those first parties do come to the PlayStation Plus catalog. Things like Ratchet & Clank, for example, the newest one, that's not on the service yet as far as I'm aware. So that would be a title that I know I want to play and I will have to buy that. Whereas knowing that all of the first-party stuff on Game Pass is coming to that service, ultimately, again, Luke's said this already, it's just money saved entirely. And especially when this Activision deal, fingers crossed, all goes through hunky-dory by mid next year, whenever it is, when we're going to expect there's a massive pool of those titles coming to the service, as well as obviously all of the future ongoing first-party titles. You're ultimately saving money, and it's better for you as a consumer, especially in the short term, if that's what you're into. And if the only thing you care about is wanting to play some games on the cheapest or most approachable platform, or whatever your reason is, Xbox are putting themselves in that position. And I think for a long time now, they've definitely played the long game with Game Pass as a concept and as an idea that they've started to develop and put out there, and just constantly gaining that feedback and increasing over the years. I think it's been out for, was it 5 years now? Game Pass has existed as this entity. I don't know, at first a number of people were saying that they didn't quite see where it was going, if it would be that great, but Microsoft, I think, have ultimately been very patient with it, and it's gotten to a point now where, not even just now, but as of, say, early last year, where people were starting to see that actually this thing is becoming really good. It's adding all this extra value. I haven't got to spend all this money on these first parties, and I can only get better from here. And I said early last year, so a year and a bit on, almost 2 years from that point. Game Pass is in the best position it ever has been, and it's only going to get better from what Microsoft have announced to us in the short past, if that makes sense. So ultimately, no, I don't think the console prices should change, because if anything, I think they're banking on their Game Pass proposition and value is what's also going to entice people to the Xbox platform ultimately. So no, I don't think they would have any reason to change the price. The only reason I could see them ever changing it is if, after the market stabilizes and components become a standard thing you can just buy again, if the general price of everything has just gone up for its own reasons and is not coming down, and production costs increase, then it becomes more justified that, really sorry, but we've got to, they either take the hit or they just have to pass that cost difference on. So whatever they decide to do is anyone's guess. But that's the only reason I can see why there would be a price increase. But I don't see that happening anytime soon, and I don't think they need to bother with it at the moment either.
Cool. Stubz, what's your marketing pitch, if you've got one at all? Should Microsoft be trying to hit this home a little harder than they are? Are they taking the right approach?
Well, I've been trying to think, because BMG's not happy. We keep agreeing. I don't know what to say to annoy you. I don't know. But no, obviously they're doing great. But if you were to think about it, they obviously can take losses. Just whack in 6 months of Game Pass with a code. That might increase the base 6 months, and after 6 months, people will probably stay subscribed, and that could boost the base. But that's only, or a 3-month code. That's only no idea. You don't really get 3-month codes with the consoles, do you? Do you generally? You don't. They did it with that pay monthly, though, didn't they? Where you actually purchased the 2 years with Klarna,
the all access thing.
But it weren't thrown in. It was part of the deal, weren't it? You actually paid for it. But
So you paid for the hardware and the subscription for 2 years.
Yeah, they kind of did that, but they could chuck in 3-month code. That might help. It would look a lot better. But they don't need to, because the consoles are selling like hotcakes still. So that's the only thing you could chuck in there. You don't have to, but if you market it, you get 3 months of it.
I mean, they're giving 3 months for £1 anyway on the Stubz. So what's the harm in just saying it's for free?
They're still doing that. I didn't know.
I think so. I believe, I might be wrong, but I think for new customers, you can still get the £1 deal.
No, fair enough.
Yeah, even as a not new customer, you can still do the whole 3-year upgrade thing as well, where you can get 3 years gold and then pay £12 or whatever it is and upgrade the entire 3 years to Ultimate.
3 years gold? If you buy... I think the conversion rates have changed a bit since that's gold.
No. So if you've got 3 years gold and then you buy a month of Ultimate, it will upgrade your entire 3-year subscription of gold to Ultimate.
Still does. It will still do it. Really?
So the only way it doesn't work like that is if you've already got Ultimate and then you try to redeem a gold code, it will convert that gold to an equivalent duration in Ultimate. I think like a month gold is like 11 days Ultimate, something along those lines.
You're doing it for the first time, you can. Right, fair
not even for the first time. If your Ultimate lapses tomorrow, then tomorrow you stack 3 years of gold and then subscribe to Ultimate again. Those 3 years will go to Ultimate.
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty good deal all around. I think, obviously, if you're interested in the sub. So we've got a few more people in chat. I just want to make a couple of shout outs. I've just seen Indie Gamers joined us. Indie Gamer Indie Gamer with the Steam Deck. I think he's been bumped to Q3. I think has come out today. Even myself, I've been bumped to Q3 as well. So sometime between now and September, allegedly, both me and Indy will be owners of a lovely Steam Deck, unless something horrific happens.
Show the Steam Deck.
No, it's not here. It's not here. I don't
He
know
got bored of showing it to Indy. He's had it that much longer than
I've had
Indy's
it.
bored of it now. It's collecting dust.
I'm waiting till EGX and then I can show it him in person and then cruelly take it away.
He might have his by then because EGX is the end of September, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So it's possible. It's possible.
Yeah, he might have it. But we've also got Anime Raza, Back from the Dead, Retro Nerd. I did see somebody else whose name I'm forgetting. Apologies. Where's it gone? I think it's gone. Up. Andrew Cullinan. Apologies if I've pronounced your second name incorrectly there, Andrew. But thank you all for joining, everyone. So I think we can probably move on to Opening Night Live. Next, maybe if people want to. I know, our thoughts maybe aren't too great. Oh, Viper XT, first time listener, thank you very much for joining, Viper. I guess this is probably a nice time to say please like, share, and subscribe. Get the plugs in if you can. That would be wonderful. But yeah, Opening Night Live was on Tuesday night. I'm gonna sort of play it in the background here. I want to skip past the awards, I think, because what a load of bollocks that was. Luke, I'm going to come to you last, mate, because I kind of already know your thoughts on it. But Stubz, I know you didn't watch the show live. I think you were too busy cooling yourself down after the Destiny showcase earlier in the day. But did you have a chance to catch up on some of the headlines from the show?
Yeah, I mean, I watched a lot of the trailers from it. The show's just reconfirmed to me that Sonic Frontier still looks not very good. If you look at it,
now, Stubz.
That's very controversial.
Remember, I've got the ability to remove you from this chat. I'm just messing with it. So
it still looks. If you look at it, it still looks like a bland, empty world. I don't get all the hype. A lot of it's CGI. people are being blinded by. It is.
Yeah, I thought it looked a little better.
It looks a little bit better. But keep looking at it, and you still see it.
It was only they had some bits that reminded me of, is it Sonic Adventure, which was the good one, the kind of 3D, 2D one. It had some moments that looked a bit like that. But then, as you say, like the open world stuff just looks shocking.
I know who that's for.
This is just for BMG. This is literally just for BMG. But the one that is holding up is because Sonic is the number one franchise in the world. Just to make everyone aware. We've got some more Sonic fans in the chat.
So, I just don't like this game.
I'll get rid of that.
But no, I've seen that, and that Doom game looks good because I used to play Doom back on the Mega CD. So that's interesting. What else was there? Tries of P?
Lies.
Lies of P.
Lies of P. That looks pretty good. That does.
Are you a Souls-like fan then, Stubz?
No, I just looked at a trailer. Oh, Souls-like is. Oh, I have no chance then. I won't. I'll get eaten for breakfast. I will. Yeah. I just thought it looked interesting. That was all. Yeah, I'm a bit stumped now. I don't really know what else there is. More Callisto Protocol. That looked nice. Not normally into them games, but it does look good. It does.
Regarding that one, though, can I just say, because maybe Luke, you can correct me on this one. The gameplay trailer that they'd shown, I'm sure we'd seen it before, right? It's nothing. That wasn't a new gameplay reveal, was it? At least the one I watched.
Yeah.
Was it? I feel like
was it extended? Was it the same trailer but longer? Was it more?
No, it was a different game. Well, I mean, they showed two segments, right? They showed the water slide segment, and then a combat sequence. The combat sequence is new, and as is the water slide one. I just think that, like, I don't blame people for thinking that, I guess, because it's within a similar, you're in a prison, so there's only so much variation in environment, I guess, they can do. So if you just kind of glance, then...
I'm sure a while back they'd shown the kind of mechanic of having that weapon where you kind of, I don't know, teleport them towards you, and then you kind of shot into, like, this grinder.
Yeah, like a grav gun.
I'm sure I'd seen that before.
They had, yeah, but it was different footage because actually in the one where they showed the first grav footage, the grav gun, the main character's in like a kind of an exosuit, and in this one he's actually it's before he gets that, so he's just in prison garb basically. So yeah, and then they showed this mutation system as well in the little gameplay bit, which I thought was cool. So
yeah, I also thought I wasn't a fan of it totally, but this Hogwarts Legacy game looks pretty good. I'm not a fan of the movies, etc. I'm not into them, but this game looks pretty cool. It does. I'm clutching at straws here, Scott. I'm really sorry.
That's right. You know it is. There it is, Stubz. I think that's unfortunately just the reality of what the show was like. You know, we would. Sorry, go on, Pux.
I was going to say I do have a bit of a short list that I put together earlier. If you want to go through that as a starter for 10, perhaps.
Go for it.
Unless you want to go through whatever you were going to say.
How many's on your shortlist, Pux?
Oh God.
Roughly. I'm just curious because
I've got 15 things. I've got 15 things in here.
15? Where did you get 15?
It's not that short list.
Okay, this isn't actually saying 15 things I'm looking forward to. It was 15 things which stood out to me, for better or worse. That's kind of where I'm going with it. Well, let's start from the top if you want then, because one of the first things that I saw, at least, not necessarily ordered, because I didn't catch it live, I caught up afterwards, is a hardware thing, actually, from Sony, PS5's DualSense Edge controller, they called it, which almost just like a teaser, really, but it looks like the what's the Xbox One called? The Series, the Elite controller. That's it. It's basically that, isn't it? From what I could see, I don't think there was really much excitement over it. I think, if anything, people are more worried about the cost of the damn thing now. But I don't know, Luke, was you excited about this? Scott, have you got a PS5 yet, or are you still?
I haven't, mate.
It's only Luke on the panel. Is this something that you think you would jump on then regarding hardware, or do you not care much about an Elite PS5 controller?
I think I will get one. I would say that it kind of. I looked at it and I was like, I must have that. But I think it looked cool, and I'm always a sucker for just new tech generally, and I think it's one of those things that, you know, has been conspicuous by its absence on Sony side for a long time. You know, I would have thought they would have done an Elite style controller. Oh, there it is. That's a good picture. So I think the only thing that I didn't particularly like, and I need to see more shots about this, but is on the Elite, when you buy that, all of the casing feels very premium. It's kind of got the rubberized grips, right? And I think they use it like it's a higher construction of controller. On the Edge, it's kind of like the sides, you know, where you actually grip your hands. They look basically just like the existing PS5 controller, so it doesn't scream the kind of premium feel that the Elite does when you compare it to its base version. But it does look good. I need to see more shots of it, but I probably will. I mean, to be honest, I'm just a sucker for this sort of stuff, so probably, I'll probably pick one up.
Anything hardware seems to be a good deal maker for people, isn't it? As you say, anyone who's just into tech will see this thing and be like, oh, wow, that's cool.
Be like,
especially
cool.
if it's a first, right? Yeah. One thing I did find interesting was they do that typical kind of hardware construction footage part. But Scott, would you mind just flicking that picture on again, if you don't mind, the image?
Yeah, just a moment there,
because one thing I thought looked strange, Luke, tell me if you think you can spot it. So on the left-hand front side image, around the kind of the analog stick area, and on the kind of advert for it, it looks like this kind of black panel. It was almost like it's an extra bit of plastic which kind of went on over it, which looked a bit bizarre.
Yeah, you see what you mean there.
Do you mean the little bit underneath?
No, kind of. Well, yeah, I guess so. I appreciate it's probably a bit of rendering / lighting bits going on, but when you see how on the trailer when they kind of do the whole, you know, they kind of blowing up all the parts and they kind of slowly have it all slotting in together, and it was just kind of weird. This looked like it was like an extra black piece which just sat on top, which looked a bit bizarre.
Yeah.
Again, I've not seen
maybe
the whole thing, so it could just be a weird render. But
I'm not too sure if it's maybe related, but one of the big differences actually between the Elite and the DualSense Edge is you can actually replace the sticks in this. Not just the sticks in the same way you can Elite. You can actually just take the module out and replace the module. So underneath the sticks, you've got kind of like a little...
What, in this controller, you mean?
Yeah, so I'll bring it back up again. So you can see the little lips underneath whether that's the right word or not, underneath the actual analog sticks themselves. So you can use them to essentially detach the entire joystick module. So that would allow you to replace. It would allow you to replace the module if you. I imagine they might be able to introduce more premium ones. Obviously, if you get stick drift, you could replace just that rather than the whole controller. So.
I wasn't aware of that. That's really interesting. I thought it was just the sticks only. I didn't realize you could take out the whole module. And that's really cool.
Here it is. Actually,
right.
Let me just bring that back a little bit. To try to get to the beginning.
Indie gamer a bit confused with the term lips, but I got it.
Yeah, apologies. India is the first thing that came to mind. I can't take it back now. So you can see actually. I'll go back. See if I can pause it at the right point. So I think when it's constructing it, so you can see there that the modules can be they're replaceable modules, which is kind of like one of the big selling points. That's actually a key differentiator between the Elite, and I think is a massive advantage for this over the Elite, because stick drift is horrific, especially on what will be undoubtedly a really expensive controller. If you get stick drift and it's out of warranty or whatever, that will suck. So having that option will be pretty handy.
Yeah, it would be. That's quite a unique feature. You think about it. It's not something that you're used to having on controllers.
No. Sorry, I just seen Indy's message. I love the lips.
I do. Part of me does think though, when the whole stick drift saga, in that controllers of analog sticks have existed for about 20 odd years, and it only seems to be very recently when the whole stick drift thing seems to be an issue. And I can't help but feel that this is partly a marketing ploy, because if anything, all you mainly have to do is just take care of your equipment. It's almost as simple as that, and you should avoid it, unless of course, yes, you in the rare instances you have 40R where it can happen, but it shouldn't be as common as what the internet would lead me to believe. And I can't help but feel that this is just a ploy.
I think if something like the Switch, though, Pux, wasn't there just a fundamental like design flaw with the Switch that caused the Joy-Cons to have particularly bad drift?
Yeah, I believe that's an exception, because they've basically taken a standard design and tried to shrink it to something that's much smaller, and that's what the end product now is. And so I appreciate that is more of an issue. But when I see stories of stick drift is all happening on my other controllers now, it's just like, really? Like,
I've never.
I'm sure it's just a load of cat hair and dirt you've probably got stuck in the contacts because you've not been cleaning stuff. It's usually as simple as that, dare I say. But then I've got my Joy-Cons I've never had issues with. So again, maybe I'm just lucky. I don't know. But
yeah, I mean, my Joy-Cons might have stick drift, but I don't ever bloody use them because I don't like playing in handheld, so I wouldn't know. But on my Series S controller, actually, the stick drift one day got that bad. I was playing Halo, and without me touching the controller, my character would sprint. That's so it wasn't just slightly moving like you would normally see it. It was like full on sprint. Thankfully, I got that replaced under warranty. But yeah, not ideal. So what was next on the list, Pux?
I'll go down my order if you want. Then they're in no particular order. Mainly the order that I watched them in. But yeah, Hogwarts Legacy. It was only a short trailer, but it looked pretty cool. Nothing. Well, I was going to say nothing new. There was some new bits that were shown. It was a new kind of, I think it's like a darker woods section and kind of like some catacombs that you and another character were kind of waltzing around, doing some spells and taking out skeleton zombie looking things or whatever. And then I'm not a follower of all the characters' names, so apologies to any hardcore Harry Potter fans, but there was some dude that appeared out of nowhere and tell the kids off that they were misbehaving and shouldn't be in that location and things like that. But it was more of a location trailer from what I could gather, but again, something that I thought looked really good. It's still a game I'm very much looking forward to, and it is multi-platform, isn't it? Yes, because it's also coming to Switch. That's one of the big things. I'm not going to be buying it for Switch personally, but I'm more interested to see how well they managed to do the port because it's a pretty big game from what we saw on the original PlayStation showcase. So to say
is it a native version?
Sorry,
is it a native version? It's not a cloud version like some
that's a good point,
developers
actually.
are starting to do
They've not
now.
announced either way. The wording that I've seen online regarding a Switch port is that they've got more news on the Switch version will be announced at a later date, kind of thing, which it's said in such a way that it leads me to believe that it may be a native port. But now that you've said it, I mean, it looks highly unlikely that you're going to be able to do that native.
Run it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
How
Unless
would you
you just
run it?
downgrade everything. So it looks like, I don't know,
Yeah.
PS1 Harry Potter. I don't know.
Yeah, Q Hagrid.
Exactly.
Meme.
Yeah, I
no,
don't know
it could
because
well be a bad thing.
you've got like a Plague Tale Requiem which is coming to Switch, but that's a cloud version that's coming later this year. Is Gotham Knights meant to be coming to Switch? Because I think they delayed the previous gen version of Gotham Knights, didn't they? When that comes out later this year,
yeah.
it's just the current gen version. I think. I think the Switch version might have been delayed at the same time if it is coming.
No, it's not going to Switch currently.
Is it not? Okay.
No.
Yeah. I guess it's just one of those games that probably wouldn't work. But then, yeah, I don't necessarily agree with having cloud-only versions of games like they do on Switch. At least it's an option, I guess. But I can't imagine that being the best way to experience some
I
of these
remember when the
games.
cloud gaming was first a thing. I think it was when Control came to the Switch and they had a
Yeah.
trial for it, and I gave it a go because it was a free trial, and at least for my network, at least it actually performed very well. But when it did perform well, but then when you did get the odd drops here and there, it was if this is going to be something that's going to consistently happen every 10 minutes, then even though it's arguably once in a while, it's still not good enough for me personally. I'd rather have a consistently good experience that's flawless as much as it can be, rather than with constant dips. I mean, I appreciate if it's the only option people have, then go for it. But again, I don't think if you have if you're a Switch player, I don't think you're the target market personally. But I appreciate there are people out there that only have a Switch and that's all they have to go with. So yeah, it's a weird one.
Poor buggers.
What was next on the list then, Pux?
The one we just finished watching, actually, Callisto Protocol. I know we kind of briefly went over it. Don't think there's much more to say, unless Scott yourself. I don't think you've said much yet regarding some of these. Is Callisto Protocol your kind of thing?
So I'm looking forward to Callisto Protocol. I did tweet at the time though, and Luke is going to hate me for this, that I think we've seen enough. I don't think we need to say any more. It's showing up a lot, particularly at Keighley's things, and it's not getting that bad, but I'm getting vibes of Deathloop almost. I kind of think now it's out in December. I kind of don't want to see it again between now and then. While it was new footage, I think a lot of it is the same. Well, it's obviously not the same footage, but it's just, look, here's another horrific way for someone to die, whether that be an enemy or yourself. So I'm kind of thinking, right, I've seen enough of this game. It looks great, and people are really excited. I'm looking forward to playing it. But I think it maybe needs to just go into hiding a little bit now and until release. Look, I know you're really looking forward to it. I don't know if you've got any particular thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think you're right, to be fair. I think I've got more tolerance for this than I did Deathloop, because I think Deathloop I wasn't as engaged by when they announced it in the first place.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like, by the time I'd seen like 17 trailers of it, I was kind of like, right, that really is enough. I've got more tolerance for this because it's like top 3 most anticipated games this year.
Yeah.
So in that. So, and I love horror games, and I love Glenn Schofield and Dead Space, etc. So I was quite happy more of it, but we don't need to. I totally agree with that. I think, we've probably seen enough now, and we're close to release. So let's just release it. Let's bring it forward. Release it now.
Yeah.
The sooner I can play it.
Mentioning that, I thought it was funny that, speaking of, we obviously briefly touched on Gotham Knights earlier, that they brought Gotham Knights release date forward by 4 days.
Yeah.
Which, when they said it's coming early, I thought, they're going to bring forward a month or 6 weeks,
Yeah,
something like
it's
that.
4 days.
No, they brought it forward 4 days.
It needs an extra 4 years by the looks of things. It just looks bad. It does not look good.
Yeah, my own notes for Gotham Knights on my little doc sheet was just looks ... meh ?
Yeah, the thing is, I'm
really
looking
like the
forward
Gotham
to
games.
it.
Yeah, I'm not a big.
But
you are looking forward to it.
Yeah, but because of the concept, every time I see it, though, I kind of get less interested because it does look. First of all, it just looks rough. It's obvious why they delayed the past gen versions. I'll be surprised if they come out. If I'm being perfectly honest, and
It looks more rough now than it did before, though. Like, I feel like the very first time we saw Gotham Knights, it looked really dark. I appreciate it's just like a demo, but it looked it looked polished. It looked detailed. It looked like the Arkham series games. Whereas when I saw the trailer for this one, and bear in mind the Gotham Knights here was an extended trailer as for all manner of story-based stuff and whatever. Yeah, I don't know. Arguably, it looks kind of like 360 style graphics. It didn't look modern.
Yeah, it was the combat as well. In particular, for me, the combat, like I think it was the Red Hood trailer that really stood out for me. I think, and like it was the way that the animations of Red Hood, in terms of how he interacted with the people he was attacking, and then the way the AI interacted, it just seemed really janky. Is the best way to describe it, I think.
Yeah, it just. I don't even know what to say about it, to be honest, because as you say, like when I heard the game,
really looking forward to this as well.
Yeah, I was really looking forward to it, and I got pretty hyped by what you were talking about, which was the first gameplay demo of it, which was the Batgirl one, and the eventual boss is Mr. Freeze, Dr. Freeze, and that looked as you say, it looked. A bit rough, a bit patchy in places, but equally it was like a good, like over a year ago they showed that. So okay, that's fine because it's going to only look better from here on out. But I fundamentally do not understand how Arkham Knight, which came out in 2015, 2014, something like that, maybe long. Can't even remember. That looks better than Gotham Knights does visually. Like it looks, and not just by a bit, it looks a lot better visually. And I'm sure WB Montreal have like a big budget for this. It just looks rough. It just like as you said, Scott, like the combat in this just looks poor. It just looks really bad. I remember, like, the kind of Arkham series really perfected the style of combat, and it was very visceral and very meaty, and it was very fun. This looks like way too floaty. The Red Hood stuff looks terrible, like just awful, and he was the character I was most looking forward to playing as well, so that was a big disappointment, because I don't want to play as fucking Nightwing or Robin. It looks, the animations really bad. They don't blend well at all. The kind of like hit feedback that you get from enemies doesn't look good, and we need to play it. You know what I mean? Like we need to actually experience it. And the one thing that I really hate about the game, which they keep showing off, and I'm sure you can turn this off, but I hate that it's there, is the damage markers for enemies that you punch them and you've done like 250 damage or something like that, because it just reminds me of all these really crap service games, and I don't get how it looks this bad at this point, and that it's releasing this year, and maybe they'll surprise us, maybe it'll come out and it'll look good, but I have a really bad feeling that it will come out and not do well critically at all, and it may be justified. I don't have any, and it baffles me when I see people online saying, "Oh yeah, looks great." What game are you watching? Because it doesn't look good at all.
Yeah, I think they're really going to regret the decision not just making another Batman game.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? Because on the one hand, you kind of want, like, the problem I have is that would WB Montreal have done a good Batman game? Because they did do one that was good. It was Arkham Origins, wasn't it? And it was a really good Batman game. It looked as good as the Rocksteady ones. Had a good story. But they seem to have regressed since then, though. At least in terms of this game, it feels very directionless and not particularly engaging. Even though on paper it should be. I don't know. I don't know what's wrong with it. Well, I do know what's wrong with it. There's lots of things wrong with it, but I don't know why. I'd be interested to know.
I wonder if it's got anything to do with the fact that they've gone down this co-op option and they're now trying to have 4 meaningful playable characters rather than just focusing on a single player Batman game. Maybe the distraction of trying to incorporate 4 different play styles almost into one game has kind of distracted them from what allowed them to make Batman good in the first place. So I'm hoping I'm going to be pleasantly surprised when it comes out. With these things, it's obviously always a case of look, hopefully we'll get to play it and it'll be good. But at the same time, if what I'm seeing is not good, I'm not going to buy it to play it anyway. So then it relies entirely on things like reviews and hearing what people in the media say about it. So. What was next on the list then,
What's
Pux?
next?
Yeah, so I appreciate we've got the footage going ahead as well, so I might be a bit behind of this now. But there's one that we've not seen yet, actually, and I've noted it here because it was actually just something a bit more different from what we've seen most of the time, and that is Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Have you guys seen this trailer? It looked quite amusing to me. It's made by the devs of the Friday the 13th game, and it's basically a multiplayer horror survival game with the general instinct being that one of you or a number of you may well be the killer clowns and the other of you are kids/teenagers that have to escape, I guess, is the impression I got. And it looked a bit wild, a bit crazy, with a few weird spooky bits going on, but it was also arcadey fun as well. But they're selling it as a multiplayer horror title. So I know, Luke, you're the horror man, I guess, but Did you see this? Did you find it amusing? I saw you have a little smirk earlier. I don't know whether it was about this or not.
Yeah, I found it. I've got no real interest in the game. Kind of asymmetric,
I wouldn't play it,
like horror multiplayer games aren't.
So is it another 4v1 thing like Friday the 13th?
I think
Dead by
Daylight? I think it's similar. The only one I'd ever be interested in those is if they did a really high budget version of Nightmare on Elm Street. But apart from that, just not interested. But I was smirking because it was really surprising to me that they've taken Killer Clowns from Outer Space, which is a horror film from the late 80s. It's just absolutely bonkers. And it's had a cult following since then. And I've seen it and I was like, I would never have thought anyone would consider adapting it into a game because it is so ridiculous, even compared to, other. It'd be like doing Sharknado, the game. That's why I found it funny, because I was like, I just can't believe someone's gone out and been like, you know what, let's try and get the Killer Clowns from Outer Space license so we can make a multiplayer game. So I think it will actually do quite well. Commercially at least.
I think those games are quite successful. They've proved to be quite well. I've played a lot. I don't have I'm not a big horror guy, so I'm not really into those franchises, but I've really enjoyed those games. I honestly, I will admit though, I've never even heard of Killer Clowns from Outer Space until this. So, but those games have been successful and they're actually quite enjoyable. I do wonder though, would this be better off if they just kind of had the clowns as DLC for one of their existing games in the way that they've done with other franchises? But obviously that's probably not going to be as commercially successful. So.
No, I guess it depends on the conceit of the game as well, how much unique mechanic there is
that's fair.
To the game. So it was just a big surprise to me.
Yeah. And Stubz just on the screen there. I know it's kind of just passed, but we did have a little show for Destiny 2 I know you did check out the showcase. If we've got time, we might go into a bit more detail, but I'm not too sure how much time we'll have. But
No
I guess,
worries.
what are your thoughts on the stuff that Destiny showed off on Tuesday?
Destiny 2, yeah, and as indie gamer, yes, I do play Destiny 2. I've returned to Destiny. I used to play it on the PlayStation 4. I used to play Destiny 1 as well. I had just a bit of a break from it, and now I'm back. And the showcase generally was very, very bloody good. I mean, Bungie have gone from strength to strength. I guess they've learned a lot. One of the biggest takeaways, and this is one thing people moaned about them because they were being, they've always known about sunsetting content. So, say you bought an expansion, and Destiny would quite often vault it. So, even though you've bought it, the expansion, you can't play it now. After Beyond Light, which is very so from Beyond Light onwards, they're not going to be vaulting any content you've bought going forward, which is great, because obviously it's pretty anti-consumer to release an expansion then say, oh, like this happened to Luke, didn't it, Luke, about your Forsaken?
Yeah.
So he's come back and he can't play it. He has. So
Yeah.
going forward after Beyond Light, from that expansion forward, they're not sunsetting any content. The passion from the Bungie devs was incredible. I watched nearly the whole show in the end. The developers, you can actually tell, want to play the game, want to develop for the game and make the best game possible. I mean, I haven't completed Witchfall yet. BMG has, and from what I understand, the general consensus is Bungie are actually going out. They're making the biggest effort possible to produce the best expansions and keep players engaged. Is what you want in live service. And what they showed from Lightfall was, sorry to swear, fucking incredible. You only have to look at the trailer and actually excited. It's not out until next year. But it's really, because there was obviously rumors and ground that this is the end of Destiny. They've confirmed that Destiny 2 is not ending. They have no plans to. They've got a big roadmap ahead. Obviously, they're not going to tell you everything in the future. But it's just really got me excited. And do you want to join in, Luke? It's got you excited enough to even get you back into Destiny.
Get me back in, back in the seat. Yeah. So I mean, I played it up until Forsaken. I played probably about halfway through Forsaken, and then just dropped off. As sometimes happens, I guess, with service games, you just stop playing them. But it's always been super dangerous to stop playing Destiny, I think, which is one of the reasons why you keep kind of going back to it, because you get FOMO about what you're missing out on. And then I've always followed what's going on broadly, from Shadowkeep and Beyond Light and Witch Queen, etc. And I think in the last 6 months, the reception to Witch Queen has just been so good, particularly in terms of the campaign for that, which a lot of people have said that it's certainly the best Destiny campaign ever made. And I've seen some people compare it even to the best campaigns Bungie have made, i.e., Halo, which gets me excited. And the thing is, like, the idea of Destiny is really appealing to me because it's essentially, it's a looter shooter, but using Bungie's patented, gameplay, and that's that's kind of almost like a dream for me. So I've always been interested in it, but I just dropped off. But yeah, I have gone back and slowly, I've got my Excel spreadsheet out and calculated how much it will cost me to get me up to date and then get Lightfall. So luckily this week, I think it's as BMG helpfully told us, it's you can actually play all of the expansions this week for free. So it's on all platforms. Yeah. So if you want to dive into it, you can. And there are things in the game that allow you to get up to level, as it were, so you can just jump into anything rather than having to grind. Yeah, the soft
soft cap.
soft power cap. So I've gone back into it. I played a bit on Xbox last night, and I've downloaded it for PC as well. And my wife actually played Forsaken with me. She played quite a lot of Destiny with me, so we're probably going to jump back into it together, hopefully. And just run through it, and I'll be joining Stubz and BMG, etc. So I was really the Lightfall stuff. I was really excited about it, and the trailer they made for that, the reveal. It's a really great trailer. I think even if you don't like Destiny, you should go and watch the trailer. It's really cool, and it's got this sci-fi kind of. It's almost hard to describe. It's kind of 80s futuristic sci-fi pulpy look. It's not cyberpunk per se, but it's like kind of what you imagine the Guardians of the Galaxy would have looked like if it was made in the 80s. Just the direction I didn't really expect them to at all with it. So I think some people, I know you, Scott, you'll probably never go back to Destiny again. There's not much they could do to get you to move, but I think if you've ever felt the pull of the game, I think it'll be quite a big pull now. It certainly was for me. So
yeah, because a lot of people obviously get this misconception, man. I can see why, that I only love Gears of War, but I have played more Destiny, hours time, etc., than I ever played Gears of War. I played Destiny the most. I've been playing it since Destiny 1. But I've took a few years of quite a break, but I've just returned. But it's exciting. It's obviously not your bag, Luke, and not Luke. Sorry, Scott. And you either like it or you don't with Destiny.
Yeah, it's not that I did that. It's not that it's not my bag. Christ, I've played an absolute shitload of both Destiny 1 and Destiny 2. My issue with it is when you hit that soft cap, I think the game kind of loses its appeal at that stage. So I last played Destiny when the stasis ability came in. I can't remember which one that was.
Beyond Light, I think.
Beyond Light, yeah. That'll be right. Yeah, so I played that and I got the soft cap. And the problem was first of all, I didn't know too many players that played the game. And at least at the time, which meant I was kind of excluded from a lot of the content. I kind of probably watched the pinnacle of the game in some respects, which is the raids, because there was no ability to kind of match up with people or anything. I understand the reasons why that's the case. Although interestingly, I have seen that they're bringing kind of a way to group up for raids in 2023, which I think is about 8 years too late, if I'm being perfectly honest. Yeah. And so I got to the point where I was at the soft cap, and I was having to just basically do weeklies to grind from the soft cap to the hard cap, and I was limited to strikes. I couldn't do raids. I played with one other friend, and we were at the point where we were trying to do a dungeon, but because there's only two of us, the dungeon was just too hard. So we were kind of just in this really grindy phase that in order to capitalize on that phase, you had to play PvP, and Destiny PvP is horrendous in my opinion. I absolutely despise it.
I don't play it.
Yeah, so I was grinding. If I wanted to get all of the weeklies, I was kind of forced to play PvP, and I just kind of thought, nah, this isn't for me anymore. Not to take away from everything else, but I think if they had the ability to group up with people for dungeons and raids earlier, and like I say, when I say earlier, I mean this should have been in Destiny 1. Games like WoW have had these functions for years at this point. Then maybe I would have stuck with it, but it's not. I don't really want to invest in the game again only to hit that point and drop off. I think is the position that I'm in. I think if or when the inevitable Destiny 3 comes, I think at some point they'll probably have to drop Destiny 2. Maybe I don't know. I don't know what their plans are. Maybe I could jump in then.
See, we had a chat about that in Stasis Chat, the podcast last night, and we've got the general consensus that they really should just drop the number and just call it Destiny.
Yeah,
because that's obviously because what it said in the showcase was we're not dropping Destiny. It's not ending. Just we're going to enter a new chapter of the game. They've got a future planned. They have, but see. we've currently got the Season of the Plunder. And I haven't played it yet, but basically, how can I explain it, Scott? There's pirates in the game now.
I mean that does sound cool, and the aesthetic is very good. I will I will say that.
But yeah, it's from what I can see from the showcase, it gave me confidence for the future of the IP, and they are literally just trying their hardest to keep the content flowing, keep players engaged, and they have like whole story narratives, or for the actual seasons when you go in to try and keep players engaged, and that they are working the hardest. It has given me confidence for the future, because I've got yet to complete Witch Queen, but once I do, Crusader from TXR, he plays Destiny as well, and he called it one of the best expansions he's played this year, like games wise. So I need to get Witch Queen done, but what I hope is that each expansion, like Lightfall, and you got the ones after that, will be better, and they're basically raising the bar and they're staying there, because like Beyond Light, it wasn't great, but I like Destiny, so it's an exciting future for Destiny. If you don't like Destiny, don't worry about it. But if you want to jump in for this week only, all the content's free, so you can jump in and give it another go if you want to. And if you've got a PC, I will tell you, you probably already know this, but if you go in via the Epic Games Store, you can get 30th anniversary edition of Destiny for free.
Yeah.
Most people probably already got it and probably haven't played
Yeah.
it, but you might as well. And Destiny skins are in Fortnite if you play it, and if you play Fall Guys, Destiny skins are also there too.
Destiny's bloody everywhere by the sounds of things, Stubz.
Yeah.
So Fortnite aren't messing about. So yeah, and just a little plug for Stasis Chat as well, Stubz. I think it was the first episode last night, was it? Or was it the second?
There was one the night before. It wasn't. This was the first what you call proper podcast of the. It was like. It was reactions to it, but I think the lads might agree it doesn't go to plan, because unlike me, I'm used to doing podcasts. See, some of the guys in Stasis Chat are quite new to podcasts. They are, but last night's show went well. It's a Destiny-based podcast, but we also do talk about other games as well. Whereas other Destiny podcasts just talk about Destiny and that's it. But it's with me, BMG, Shadow Mole, and Anime Raza in chat, and it's a good show. We haven't decided frequency; it might be every 2 weeks. But if you want to follow at Status Chat on Twitter, and we'll keep you up to date more often. It's a new thing, so we're ironing out the kinks and seeing what works. But last night's show seemed to be quite fun, and as Luke's Destiny fan and joining the clan and stuff, we'll probably get him on in the future. We definitely.
Yeah, once I can know what I'm talking about.
I didn't really, to be fair. I didn't.
Very nice. Right, I think we've had a Destiny segment for the show. But yeah, if you want more Destiny chat, check out Stasis Chat on Twitter with Stubz, BMG, Shadow Mole, and Anime Raza. So, Pux, did you have anything in particular to say on Destiny, mate, or do you want to move on to whatever was next on your list there, pal?
I have very little interest in Destiny. I did try Destiny 1 when it first came out. Likewise with Destiny 2. And to me, it just felt like the biggest grind ever and hour fest that I thought, actually, I've got many other games I'd rather not, that I know would finish in a finite amount of time and that I can actually put down and move on rather than having to grind for years. So it didn't really catch on with me, unfortunately. So I'm happy to move on. But you guys can keep talking about it if you wish. I don't care.
What was next? What was next? I'm conscious that it's already sort of an hour and a half in, and we're probably only a couple of things down the list, mate. So we'll crack on with what the other highlights you had.
Yeah, there's one that's already been played actually that I really liked. I know Indie Gamer in chat's been talking about it, and revealed trailer for a game called Under the Waves by Quantum Dream. which looked really interesting. Obviously, not much is known about the game. It was kind of one of those trailers, but it looks like it's been described, as a story-driven game underwater. There's some stuff going on. You're a guy that goes down this submarine and is exploring undersea wreckage and XYZ, whatever else. And the presentation and the general gameplay of it looks really intriguing, and that really stood out to me. I don't know if you guys saw that one.
Wasn't one that stood out
Yeah.
to me. I recall the trailer. Go on, Luke.
Yeah, no, I mean, I saw it, and it looked. The thing is, I quite like a lot of what Quantic Dream do. I think this is in parallel, like they're co-developing this one. So I think it's them and another studio. It's probably the other studio that's actually doing the main development, because Quantic Dream are probably all hands on deck with Eclipse, right?
Yeah, it's Parallel Studios, the developer.
Yeah. So, but it's obviously a Quantic Dream style game.
Yeah.
And I think the premise of it is super cool, but it's really difficult to get an idea of how the game, what the gameplay's like, or the narrative. Yeah, just from this. So from a purely settings perspective, kind of how the game is presented, I think it looks cool. But like many trailers in this thing, actually, they were kind of nothing, so I don't really have I didn't have any strong thoughts on it other than, okay, cool, I'm excited to see more. I need to see more. But yeah, certainly visually very nice. Like the setting, so we'll see.
And Scott, you said it didn't really appeal to you at all.
Not that it didn't appeal. I think Luke made a valid point. I think a lot of these trailers, in some cases, I was just like, was that it? Or
I agree.
There was one that rivaled that Aliens game from Summer Games Fest in terms of the amount of gameplay it showed at the very end. It was like a second and a half.
Yeah, and it looked bad as well.
Exactly.
It was that one on a planet, and it was like top down, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I can't remember what it was. Surviving. I can't remember what it was called. But yeah, they showed like the briefest glimpse of game. Also, another one which was funny. It was the Arc Studios. I think it's Arc Studios game. The Patrick Soderlund's game, no, sorry, not Arc Studios. The Patrick Soderlund's studio, whatever that studio is called, and it was making Arc Raiders, and they also making this other game called The Fight.
Is that Embark?
Embark, that's it. Yeah. And they showed, they were like, it's just a tease, and it was like the briefest trailer I've ever. And it looked, the tease looked really nice, actually, and I'm excited to see more. But I was like, what was the point? Why didn't you just show the whole thing?
Yeah, I agree that was kind of the theme of the night. I think I'm not normally one to complain about things like CG, but there was a lot of CG and a whole lot of nothing, where they showed something, but you couldn't really gather from the trailer maybe what it was about, what type of game it was, necessarily what the story was, I think, in a lot of cases. And I think maybe that was one that kind of just, my eyes had sort of glazed over at this point, and maybe I'd missed it. So
that was a good one.
I'll move on to the next one then, because this is
go for it.
Relatively quick one as well, but it had a bit more gameplay. It's a game called Scars Above.
Ooh, I can't even remember that one. Just describe it to a Pux.
Okay, so you were like a woman, part of a space team, but then there's this weird pyramid-like thing that appears above Earth, and then a number of you go up to to explore it or something. But then you control this woman who gets lost on it. But then it's like this weird shape-shifting environment area thing. Doesn't really make much sense, but a lot of things, I guess.
It was like a action adventure narrative driven game, wasn't it? It reminded me actually a bit of Returnal, similar sort of world, and obviously female protagonist, etc. Yeah, that looked decent actually. But again, they didn't show a lot. They showed more of that than they did other games.
The one game they did show some. Oh, sorry, go on, Scott.
I was just going to say I can't even remember. I'm gonna have to look it up.
The one game which kind of similar-ish, but it's completely different, which did leave an impression on me that I thought looked really good, was I think it's not on my list actually, but I do remember it. I think it was Deliver Us Mars or something like that. Where you control a young girl, you go on a Mars mission, and it's quite story driven by the looks of it. And I think there's like your dad or something that was into space, and I don't know. I get the impression that he's lost somewhere, but you're basically on Mars, but you also do a lot of like rock climbing and stuff. So it seems like there's a lot of exploration and around trying to survive. Yeah, go on.
Deliver Us the Moon.
The Moon.
Yeah,
kind of. But on Mars.
But on Mars, yeah. Same developer, yeah.
Yeah, but that looked really cool as well.
Yeah.
While this is on the screen, actually, look, I know we kind of briefly chatted about this in the Discord, but we've got Lies of P on the screen here, which was announced for Game Pass, developed by Neoways, coming 2023. It's like a Souls-like game, bizarrely set in the Pinocchio universe, which that by itself has me at least interested in it. I think it looks good. I thought what they showed looked great. I know from your perspective, maybe you had a slightly different opinion. You're obviously someone who loves this genre of game. Look, so what were your thoughts on Lies of P?
Yeah, I don't know what it is about it. I'm not too enthralled by it. I think visually it looks nice, definitely for sure. It looks really nice visually, but I feel like it's one of those games, and this isn't you, Scott, or other people, but they have this kind of Game Pass hype about them, if you see what I mean. Like, they come to Game Pass and then suddenly people are like, oh, look at this, it looks really good. And I think if it wasn't on Game Pass, I wonder if it would get the same reception as it did. Now, it did get, like, before it was even announced to Game Pass, it did get some hype because it looks so similar to Bloodborne in a lot of ways. So it was always going to get that crowd. And I think the problem is, I think I said this on Discord at the time, is that because it looks so much like Bloodborne, I'm going to hold it. I can't help but hold it to the same standards, and I don't think it will ever in a million years be as good as Bloodborne. So it kind of makes me just like, oh man, because really people who were attracted to that game, particularly before it was announced to Game Pass, were people who just desperately want a Bloodborne 2 or like a remaster of Bloodborne or something like that, or it's to come to PC so they can play it again, but at 60 FPS and all this sort of stuff. So it feels like more like a stand-in for a game that people want to me than an actual, game I'm just excited for on its own. That's to me, like, obviously, if you never played Bloodborne, I think, and you just saw that game, you'd be like, oh wow, that looks really cool, really interesting. And I think the setting is super cool. Obviously the story stuff is really interesting. But I'm just not convinced by it. And I think partly that's also to do with the studio, who, haven't made anything of that size before. There's a lot of variables. I think if From Software make a game, you're kind of assured of a level of quality that very few other developers can meet. With this, I really don't know which way it would go, because it'll either be surprisingly good or it could be really bad. So the good thing is it's on Game Pass, so I will definitely try it. So
I think what you said at the beginning, Luke, was perfectly valid. Even about me myself, like, I will openly admit I wouldn't be playing this game if it wasn't in Game Pass. I only know of this game really because of the rumor. I didn't even know this game existed until the rumors about it coming to Game Pass. I hadn't even heard of it when I heard a Pinocchio Bloodborne type game. Like, if you told me that, I wouldn't have believed you. So I think there's something to, a lot of people weren't interested in this game until Game Pass, but I guess that's maybe highlights the benefit of maybe a game like this going into Game Pass, as it is going to get more people interested. But I think that's absolutely fair. I thought it looked great what they showed. Obviously, I'm not a big fan of the genre. I've not played Bloodborne, so my perspective is obviously going to be a little different to your own. But I don't know if you've seen any of the previews or thoughts of people who are playing it at Gamescom. Look, but the people do seem to be pleasantly surprised or pleased with what they've played, at least. Because it is playable at Gamescom, so we'll see. But as you say, it's in Game Pass, so you can try it. If it doesn't meet those high standards, then you can drop it, can't you? So cool. What was next there, Pux?
Well, I did briefly have it. Just finished playing on the screen actually, but I did have High on Life gameplay, which the Rick and Morty thing, and I'm not sure. I mean, it graphically looks good, but I mean, I was going to say I'm not a Rick and Morty fan in that I just haven't watched much of it. It's not like I've watched it and don't like it. I just haven't given it much of a chance myself. So maybe I would enjoy it. But graphically, I think it looks different and interesting. But the gameplay trailer was just a bit pants. Really, it was just a boss.
I thought it was such a bad Sean. Like I really don't think this did the game any favors whatsoever. I think a lot of people who were maybe intrigued by the initial reveal at the Xbox Game Showcase in the summer. I was intrigued by what it was. This just completely put me off. If I'm being completely honest.
What about it put you off then? Out of interest.
So the first thing is that the combat didn't look particularly great. Like I thought the concept of having these sort of guns that were alive sounded quite interesting, but also the guns just didn't seem like they were doing anything. Like he was shooting the boss and the health bar was going down, but other than kind of the attack that he charged that forced it to go in the air, just didn't seem like it was having any sort of impact or anything like that. So the gameplay didn't look particularly exciting, and then what that did from me is it meant I was focusing more on the writing and the actual voices of the guns, and I thought at first it wasn't too bad, but then when he brought out the knife, I was just like, nah, this just isn't for me. I thought that the gameplay just didn't look particularly engaging, and then when you combine that with the writing, which I will admit I'm not a fan of Rick and Morty. I know you're a fan of the writer's work. Look, I can't remember the guy's name. I've not seen too many of his other things, at least I don't think. But I'm certainly not a fan of Rick and Morty. So yeah, it just highlighted the writing that I didn't like because the gameplay didn't look particularly engaging. So, what were your thoughts, Luke?
I mean, I agree with the demo. It's always really difficult showing off boss battles because apart from a few games, they tend to be some of the least interesting things you'll do in games. You know what I mean? Depends on the mechanics. So that didn't look great. Like I know, like, I think that a lot of people, the humor really puts people off. For me, like, I genuinely found it very funny. But that's because I really like Justin Roiland, who's a kind of clearly the creative director, creator of Rick and Morty, etc. I really, really like his humor. And it doesn't get that old to me, but for some people, as you say, I just laughed thinking about the knife. But for some people, the knife will just get annoying within about 20 seconds, and that'll be
that
it.
trailer
Like,
was too much of that knife for me, Luke. Like straight away within a seconds of it speaking, I was like, it was just really jarring and off-putting almost. So
I think actually in terms of the game, so that the demo of the boss battle they showed looked really, really bad. But I think IGN have 25 minutes of gameplay, and I watched about 5 or 6. It looks so much better in that gameplay video than it did at the showcase, because it's like the not open world, but it's, open area stuff. The combat looks a ton better because the enemies have better hit reaction to everything rather than like the spam of a boss. And the AI looks a lot better as well. So I think go and watch that because although maybe the humor, that demo won't save the humor of the game if you have a bad reaction to that. It will maybe salvage some of the excitement for the gameplay. I think someone said something that kind of I totally agree with, which is it looks like one of these 90s throwback games when games were like, you had so many different games that were so creative and they weren't doing anything particularly special other than, you know, the influence of them and how weird they were, how eccentric they were. This is one of those games. It's super eccentric. It's got a super weird sense of humor. I really like that. I don't know if it'll be a great game. I'll definitely play it, and it's on Game Pass. So again, you know, we can go into it pretty low stakes. But that demo did no favors for it whatsoever at all.
Yeah, I think again the thoughts of people who are playing the game at Gamescom, they do seem to be speaking highly of it as well, Luke. And anyone else that's interested. But again, similar to Lies of P, it's again we're going to be able to play ourselves and make our own decisions. Thankfully, so. Stubz, what were your thoughts on Higher Life, mate? Is that a game that's appealing to you, mate? Are you a fan of that humour?
It did before I seen this trailer. I thought it was alright. Then I seen this trailer. I didn't really think much to it, really. Well, it just put me off.
Yeah?
I don't get it.
I wonder why they went for that particular selection
Bizarre,
of footage to show it off, especially if, as you're saying, like the stuff that they got with IGN was much better.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on, Stubz.
The stuff they showed previously, I liked, but this stuff was a little bit random. I don't know what to say really.
Yeah, I mean that's the issue that they've got now, isn't it? So,
well, is that's in Game Pass, isn't it? High on Life.
Yeah.
So I may as well try it anyway. So when it comes out, they probably didn't pick the best thing to show.
Yeah,
for this showcase.
Which is a shame. So hopefully more people check out the IGN footage then, Luke. If that's sort of a better show. But the thing is, more people are going to have their eyes probably on Open Night Live, maybe maybe
exactly.
not. To be fair, but obviously that's the big showcase. So people who are checking out that won't necessarily check out IGN. Like I've not seen the IGN footage yet. So cool. I'm conscious of time, Pucks. So maybe what I would ask is maybe just to wrap up the show, maybe you could pick one last big one, dare I say it, from the remaining list, or one that you particularly wanted to highlight before we wrap up the show.
Yeah, I think I've got one I can highlight. I think most of us here are looking forward to, and I know Indie Gamer in chat is also really looking forward to this. But we did get an 18-minute gameplay demo, dare I say, of Planet of Lana, which looked really cool. Arguably, I think 18 minutes was too long for the type of game that it is, personally, because it kind of plays like Inside, from what I could tell. Not to say that's not any good or anything like that. I really liked Inside. I'm really looking forward to Planet of Lana. But ultimately, you are moving right along the screen and overcoming whichever obstacles you come across. And 18 minutes of it, I mean, I didn't even watch it all in the end. I kind of skipped it just to see if there was any kind of bigger bit at the end, because I knew there'd be some story elements involved. And I think at the very end, you kind of saw some weird spherical robot thing in the distance that kind of glows a couple of colors, and then it kind of fades to black in a way, and game's coming whatever day it's coming. But I was really impressed with what I saw. I really like the gameplay, and the art style looks incredible as well, and I really like the mechanics with the little, I don't know, black cat dog thing, whatever it is. But yeah, I did just think that 18 minutes of this was maybe a bit too excessive for the type of game that it is, but I think this is a game which looks really impressive visually, and it's just a little bit, dare I say, looked a little bit different. I think visually, with the gameplay style as well, we haven't seen much of things like this. So I think this is a really good one that was shown personally. But I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts on this. Let's start with you, Scott. I'm going to go to you first.
I've not actually seen this footage yet, if I'm being perfectly honest with you, Pucks, because this was an IGN thing by the looks of things. Obviously, this wasn't part of Open Night Live, so I haven't seen an awful lot outside of the stuff from Open Night Live. When you said 18 minutes, I was like, I must have fell asleep during that part of the show, which, to be fair, wouldn't have surprised us. But I think just in general, Planet of Lana looks excellent. I don't necessarily need to see any of this footage to not know it looks excellent. Obviously, I've got our good friend, the Indie Gamer, who's in chat, to thank for knowing about this game. So yeah, I think what they've shown prior to this looked really good. Obviously, they recently announced that unfortunately was delayed until 2023. But they also did announce at the same time it is coming to Game Pass day one, like a few other games we've spoken about. So I kind of brought the footage up here while we chat about it. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to this game when it comes next year. And Luke, I know you're particularly excited for this as well, aren't you?
Yeah, definitely. I saw some of the gameplay video. I think, as Puck said, I don't think it needed 18 minutes because of the style of game it is, but it reaffirmed that it looks really good. Visually, super cool. Atmosphere looks great. There's a lot of intrigue about story and stuff like that as well. So yeah, it was already super anticipated for me, but I genuinely I don't need to see it. Just like if Playdead was showing their new game, I wouldn't need to see too much of it really to be interested in it. So I think that's similar here.
Yeah, Stubz, is this a game that's on your radar of interest, mate?
No,
No.
it's not. No.
Is it not your cup of tea, or is it not one that you've come across just yet?
Not really. Yeah. I don't really play that many indie games, to be honest. It's not something
That's
on my
not going to go
radar.
down well with our good friend in the chat, Stubz.
No.
Did you not play inside? Because it kind of
Yeah, I
plays
think
like
you
this,
played
yeah.
inside,
Oh,
didn't
hang
you?
on,
Yeah.
wait a minute. Is this Playdead's game?
No. This is a different developer, but it's very it's kind of inside inspired in some respects, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll have to have a look at this then because I've completed Inside and Limbo, so I'll definitely have to have a look at this.
You should enjoy this,
It's
then,
a
I
little
would
bit
imagine.
different. This. Oh, I can see it now with that. I can see it now with that when you're moving the box around. Yeah, no, actually, that might be. I might want to check this one out. Actually,
I think this is just not. I mean, Inside and Limbo are dark games. They are quite oppressive. This one's it's similar style of game, just really colourful. yeah, and a bit more optimistic than those games are, I think. So, yeah, I think it's a Playdead style game, but wrapped up in a much more vibrant setting.
Yeah, I'll be checking this out definitely.
Yeah,
I will. I'm with the program, Indie Gamer. Don't worry, I'm with it now.
I was to say, Indy hasn't shut up about this game, I don't think, since it was first revealed. So, funny enough, just very quickly on sort of Playdead and Jump Ship, we've still not seen anything more on Somerville, which I'm a little surprised about. I thought we might have seen it here, considering that I believe it's still scheduled for this year. I don't think they've said otherwise.
I was looking forward to that. Then it's gone silent. It has.
Yeah, and I don't think we've heard anything about anything further about because. Correct me if I'm wrong, Luke, but Somerville's Jump Ship, and I don't think we know what Playdead's next game is just yet. Is that right?
No, they've released some concept teasers for it, Playdead, so we know kind of broad setting or motifs, but not we don't know exactly what the game is or how it looks or anything like that.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll see a little bit more of both of those projects, to be honest, especially like say Somerville that originally was due for this year. I'm going to assume that maybe it's not going to come out this year, considering we've not heard anything yet. So wonderful. Well, I think what we'll do is we're kind of at the 2 hour mark there. So maybe what we could do, depending on what news is like for the next week, we could maybe circle back to some of the other highlights. I say highlights, some of the lights, I guess, from opening night live on a future show. So I think we'll wrap up the show there. Obviously, thank you very much everybody in the chat for joining. Appreciate you all joining us. Continue the conversation in the chat. Obviously, if you aren't already, please consider checking out the Discord. Obviously, we can chat anytime through there. But I guess we'll wrap up the show there. I'm going to start with our special guest, Stubz Gaming. Thank you once again for joining us, Stubz. Hopefully you've enjoyed the show. Obviously a little bit of a different tone tonight compared to Sunday, but hopefully you've still enjoyed it, mate.
Yeah, no, it's been an excellent show. Thanks for inviting me on. It was fun to talk. It was.
Wonderful. And just in case anybody in our community isn't familiar with where they can catch your Stubz, do you want to let everyone know where they can find you and what shows you've got going?
Goodness, I got too many bloody podcasts. I have. So on Monday, I'm doing Plastic Platforms with my good friend Centurion, and that run his channel on Monday night, 9 p.m. BST, 4 p.m. EST. And if you didn't know already, Midweek Gaming will be returning 7th of September with myself, Animated Evil, Cerebral Pool, and Removable Sanity on the Wednesday time slot. The normal time slot we used to have, that's returning. And I have got other podcasts. I've got too many to mention, but you can find them all at the Stubz Gaming YouTube channel, and I promote them on the Stubz Gaming Twitter account. But yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. It's been fun. It's my first appearance. So yeah, it's first official appearance anyway, as an invited guest. But yeah, thanks. It's been fun. It has. And sorry, I couldn't find any reasons to fall out with you, Scott. I know
there'll be plenty of times. There'll be plenty of time. Yeah, there'll be something that comes up that triggers us.
In the Discord, we fall out. Well, debate, have fun. But on the show, it's just not happened. It really hasn't.
I just don't think the topics have presented themselves just yet. Just wait until something happens.
He kept bigging it up, and even on Roundtable Gaming, but he didn't bring any topics that would be, would push the line towards falling out. He didn't bring the goods, did he? He kept talking about it.
Exactly, and so all he got was a whole load of Sonic pictures for him to have to put up with. So that's on him. So yeah, but again, appreciate it, Stubz. Obviously, you've got Stasis Chat, you've got Roundtable Gaming as well. So yeah, if anyone's interested, please check that out on Stubz Gaming's Twitter.
Thank you.
Pux, hopefully you enjoyed the show, mate. I know it's been a couple of weeks, mate, but it was lovely to have you back. Hopefully you enjoyed it, pal.
Yes, definitely, and that's been really good. Thank you very much. You've done a great job tonight, Scott. Thank you very much for hosting. Always enjoyed chatting games with you all and chat as well. Great to see you all here. Actually, it's been quite a good turnout tonight, from what I've noticed. Good chat going on. So no, it's been fantastic. Looking forward to the next one, of course.
Wonderful. And last but obviously not least, Luke, thank you very much for joining, mate, again. Hopefully you've enjoyed the show, mate.
Yes, I very much have. It's been great to have Stubz on at last. At last, he's arrived finally, and yeah, been really enjoyable. And we'll do it again soon.
Yeah, so I think in terms of upcoming shows, we should hopefully be live next Thursday. I think at the moment we're going to have Mav from the Fun Speculation channel on the show, and then at the moment I think we've got Ian's from Season Gaming who's going to be on the 8th. Obviously. All of that's TBC, but that's the plan. So hopefully we'll see you all guys next Thursday. Just a final shout out for our Discord. Link should be in the chat. If you're interested, please do join. And obviously if you've enjoyed the show, please like, subscribe, share, all that jazz. That would be lovely. But other than that, thank you all for joining, and we'll see you on the next one.